Hey guys, welcome to English class. I'm sorry that I am not here for a live session today, but we are going to go through the lesson today and then you will answer the exit ticket so that you are ready to move on to our journal writing tomorrow. So our chat challenge today would have been if we had live class, which is not a problem that Bilbo and the dwarfs have at the end of chapter 8. So thinking about chapter 8, remember they start in on Mirkwood Forest. There's those huge spiders that are creepy and jumping out and attacking them. Which one was not a problem? So go ahead and take a look. It's A, they are lost in Mirkwood Forest. B, Bjorn attacked them in the form of a bear. C, Thorin has been captured by the wood elves. Or D, I don't remember chapter 8. Hopefully you remember it. So today we're going to read chapter 9 and we're going to go through some of the character traits of some of the characters in chapter 9 and identify some of the conflicts present in that chapter. So the answer is, if you haven't guessed, B, Bjorn attacked them in the form of a bear was not a problem. Bjorn actually helped them. Bjorn was not, didn't change into a bear, and Bjorn actually took in the dwarves and Bilbo and gave them supplies and told them stay on the path in Mirkwood Forest because it's a dark and dangerous place. So he actually helped them out. He did not attack them as the form of a bear. All right, so now they left Bjorn's house. They have escaped from the spiders, but unfortunately, as they were escaping from the spiders in chapter 8, they noticed that Thorin has been kidnapped, okay? So Thorin has been taken, and now Bilbo and the dwarfs have to figure out how to escape Mirkwood Forest and what to do about Thorin. So I'm going to go ahead and read the next part to you, and then you're going to do the exit ticket at the end of class, which is in this email, and it's also in the plan for today. All right, so let's continue with chapter 9. The day after the battle with the spiders, Bilbo and the dwarves made one last despairing effort to find a way out before they died of hunger and thirst. They got up and staggered on in the direction which 8 out of the 13 of them guessed to be the one in which the path lay. But they never found out if they were right. Such day as there ever was in the forest was fading once more into dark blackness of night, when suddenly out sprang the light of many torches all around them, like hundreds of red stars. Out leaped wood elves with their bows and spears and called the dwarfs to halt. There was no thought of a fight. Their small knives the only weapons they had, so they simply stopped dead and sat down and waited, all except Bilbo, who popped on his ring and slipped quickly to one side. That is why when the elves bound the dwarfs in a long line, one behind the other, and counted them, they never found or counted the hobbit. Each dwarf was blindfolded. Bilbo had all he could do to keep up with the torches, for the elves were making the dwarfs go as fast as they ever could, sick and weary as they were. The king had ordered them to make haste. Suddenly the torches stopped, and the hobbit had just time to catch up to them before they began to cross the bridge. This was the bridge that led across the river to the king's doors. The water flowed dark and swift and strong beneath, and at the far end were gates before the mouth of a huge cave that ran into the side of a steep slope covered with trees. There were the great beeches came right down to the bank till their feet were in the stream. Across this bridge the elves thrust their prisoners, but Bilbo hesitated in the rear. He did not at all like the look of the cavern mouth, and he only made up his mind not to desert his friends just in time to scuttle over the heels of the fast elves before the great gates of the king closed behind them with a clang. So guys, they just escaped the spiders, and now out pops the wood elves who have already taken Thorin. Now they take all the rest of the dwarfs. Luckily, Bilbo was smart enough to slip on that ring, which we know makes him invisible. So he was able to escape from the wood elves. But he doesn't say, oh, well, the dwarfs were taken. I'm just going to keep going. No, he follows them, which is something that he wouldn't have done before, right? In the beginning, he wouldn't have had the courage to follow them into that cavern mouth of the cave where the Wood King lives. But he does it because he wants to help his friends, the dwarfs. Okay? So let's continue. Inside, the passages were lit with red torch light. These were not like those of the goblin cities. They were smaller, less deep underground, and filled with a cleaner air. In the great hall, with pillars hewn out of the living stone, sat the Elfin King on the chair of carved wood. On his head was a crown of berries and red leaves, for the autumn was come again. In the spring he wore a crown of woodland flowers. In his hand he held a carved staff of oak. The prisoners were brought before him, and though he looked grimly at them, he told his men to unbind them, for they were ragged and weary. Besides, they need no ropes in here, he said. There is no escape from my magic doors for those who were once brought inside. Long and searchingly he questioned the dwarves about their doings and where they were going to and where they were coming from, but he got little more news out of them than out of Thorin. They were surly and angry, and they did not even pretend to be polite. "What have we done, O king?" said Balin, who was the eldest left. "Is it a crime to be lost in the forest, to be hungry and thirsty, to be trapped by spiders? Are the spiders your tame beasts or your pets? If killing them makes you angry?" Such a question, of course, made the king angrier than ever, and he answered, "Is it a crime to wander into my realm without leave? Do you forget that you were in my kingdom using the road that my people made? Did you not 3 times pursue and trouble my people in the forest and rouse the spiders with your riot and clamor? After all the disturbance you made, I have a right to know what brings you here, and if you will not tell me now, I will keep you all in prison until you learn sense and manners." Then he ordered the dwarves each to be put in a separate cell and to be given food and drink, but not to be allowed to pass the doors of their little prisons until at least one of them was willing to tell him all he wanted to know. But he did not tell them that Thorin was also a prisoner with him. It was Bilbo who found that out. So, the Elfin King took the dwarves prisoner because he wants to know what they're doing in the forest. Where are they going? Why are they in the forest? He didn't tell them that he already has Thorin. They don't know that Thorin's there yet. But they are not speaking. They don't know what the king wants from them, and they don't want to tell him why they're on this journey right now. So, why won't the dwarves tell the Elfin King where they're going? Are they too hungry and thirsty? Dwarves and elves are enemies? They're afraid the elves might decide to try and steal the treasure from Smaug themselves. So there's the Elfin King sitting there upon his throne. And guys, if you chose C, you're right. They don't want to tell the elves where they're going because remember, the elves think that the dwarves took treasure from them. That's why they took Thorin. So they don't want to tell them where the treasure is or what they're trying to do and how they're trying to get the treasure back from the dragon. They don't want to tell the elves that. Okay, so they're each going to be put in their own prison cell alone until someone tells why they're there. Poor Mr. Baggins. It was a weary long time, and he lived in that place all alone and always in hiding, never daring to take off his ring, hardly daring to sleep, even tucked away in the darkest and remotest corners he could find. This is the dreariest and dullest part of all this wretched, tiresome, uncomfortable adventure. I wish I was back in my hobbit hole, my own warm fireside with the lamp shining. He often wished, too, that he could get a message for help sent to the wizard, but that, of course, was quite impossible. And he soon realized that if anything was to be done, it would be done by Mr. Baggins alone and unaided. Eventually, after a week or 2 of this sneaking sort of life, by watching and following the guards and taking what chances he could, he managed to find out where each dwarf was kept. He found all of their 12 cells in different parts of the palace, and after a time he got to know his way about very well. What was his surprise one day was to overhear some of the guards talking and to learn that there was another dwarf in prison too, in a especially deep, dark place. He guessed at once, of course, that that was Thorin. And after a while he found that his guess was right when he heard Bilbo's little voice at his keyhole. So it was that Bilbo was able to take secretly Thorin's message to each of the other imprisoned dwarfs, telling them that Thorin, their chief, was also in prison close at hand, and that no one was to reveal their errand to the long, not yet, not before Thorin gave the word. So Thorin is saying to Bilbo, go to each of the dwarves' cells and tell them, don't say anything to the elves until Thorin gives them word to do that. For Thorin had taken heart again, hearing how the hobbit had rescued his companions from the spiders, and was determined once more not to ransom himself with promises to the king of a share in the treasure until all hope of escaping in any other way had disappeared, until in fact the remarkable Mr. Invisible Baggins, of whom he began to have a very high opinion indeed, had altogether failed to think of something clever. The other dwarfs quite agreed when they got the message, and they all trusted Bilbo. Just what Gandalf had said would happen, you see. So remember, Gandalf said that Bilbo was going to be of importance and was going to be able to help these dwarves. In the beginning, Thorin didn't think so. Thorin thought that Bilbo looked like a grocer. There was no way. He was going to be baggage to them. He was going to slow them down. But now Bilbo is showing strength and courage, right? He followed them into this wood elf's cave. He's trying to help them escape. So Thorin now has confidence in Bilbo. And he says, you know what? We're not telling them anything until Bilbo has figured out a way to help us escape. Make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see the words there. Bilbo, however, did not feel nearly so helpful as they did. He did not like being depended on by everyone. He sat and thought until his head nearly burst. But no bright idea could come. One invisible ring was a very fine thing, but it was not much good among 14. But of course, as you have guessed, he did rescue his friends, and in the end, and this is how it happened. One day, nosing and wandering about, Bilbo discovered a very interesting thing. The great gates were not the only entrance to the caves. A stream flowed under part of the lowest regions of the palace. Where this underground watercourse came forth from the hillside, there was a water gate. If anyone had come in that way, he would have found himself in a dark, rough tunnel leading deep into the heart of the hill. There stood barrels and barrels and barrels, for the wood elves, and especially their king, were very fond of wine, though no vines grew in these parts. The wine and other goods were brought from far away, from their kinsfolk in the south, or from the vineyards of men in distant lands. Hiding behind one of the largest barrels, Bilbo discovered the trapdoors and their use, and lurking there, listening to the talk of the king's servants, he learned how the wine and other goods came up the rivers, or over land, to the long lake. It seemed a town of men still throve there, built out on bridges far into the water as a protection against enemies of all sorts, and especially against the dragon of the mountain from Lake Town. The barrels were brought up the forest river. Often, they were just tied together like big rafts and pulled or rowed upstream. Sometimes they were loaded onto flat boats. When the barrels were empty, the elves cast them through the trapdoors, opened the water gate, out the barrels floated on the stream, bobbing along until they were carried by the current to a place far down the river where the bank jutted out near to the very eastern edge of Mirkwood. There they were collected and tied together and floated back to Lake Town, which stood close to the point where the forest river flowed into the long lake. So Bilbo is really interested in these barrels because the barrels, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see the picture of the barrels. Can you guys see those barrels here? The barrels are coming in through a different way than the way that they came in to the cave. And he's thinking, these barrels go out onto the lake and end up in Lake Town, right? So, what is he thinking about these barrels? Well, you can make your own prediction. How do you think Bilbo's going to save the dwarves? And there's a hint there. How are they going to get out of this situation? Not so sure. All right, so we will find that out next time we read. And today, you guys are going to do an exit ticket, which, here's the link for it. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to click on that link from this video or not, but there's also going to be a link within your email and also in the plan for today. So click on that link and answer the exit ticket. The exit ticket is, Bilbo has changed. How has he changed since chapter 1? How has he shown that he's braver now than when we first started reading this novel? How has Bilbo changed? Okay, so you guys are going to do that, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.